Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Tottenham Hotspur are now finally active in the market. Incomings, outgoings. I'm joined by Ashmatic, and it's like Christmas Day, Ash. How are we doing? Are you excited? What's going on?
I'm excited to be alive, to be fair, and I've got good health. Well, obviously, you know what's going on in the world, so I won't get into it. But in terms of football, am I excited? Yeah, meh, meh. If I'm being honest, it's not what I thought the club were gonna do. So it was a bit of a
Yeah.
surprise, shall I say? It was a surprise.
Yeah.
It caught me off guard. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, we'll get into it. We've got a lot to discuss. I mean, first and foremost, I'll agree that three-letter word, meh, is, I mean, that if you look at Tottenham in the dictionary, it's kind of like meh. Meh is the word next to it. Look, let's discuss. I mean, first and foremost, guys and girls, smash that like button. Just remember, you're watching a pre-record, so if you ask us any questions in the chat, we won't actually be able to answer. I might be in the comments, but Ash won't be able to answer. Look. Dominic Solanke, we've been given the here we go-ish kind of in David Ornstein style, and Duncan Castles have said that it's pretty much done now. Emerson Royal has left the building as well, and there's still other things that need to be done. So let's get into it. Let's chat. We'll start with this, Ash. Here's what happened. David Ornstein this morning said Bournemouth have agreed to sell Dominic Solanke for a club record fee, and talks with Tottenham Hotspur continue to finalise the transfer. Personal terms in place, and the 26-year-old striker he's desperate, Ash, to complete a move from Bournemouth to Tottenham Hotspur. Now, even Spurs from this moment surely can't mess that transfer up. So let's talk as though it's done, and then if not, it will come back to bite us both, and people can clip us up for a long time. Initial thoughts on Solanke? What's the initial feeling that comes into your mind when you think about this signing?
You know what? I'll be totally honest. I'm not as polarized as some fans are. Like some fans are super excited. Oh my goodness, Dominic Solanke will fit perfectly. And I'm not super mad at it. Like some fans are like, "Why the hell are we going for Dominic?" Like, I wouldn't say I'm in the middle. I've done a lot of research, and on top of it, I actually had him in my fantasy team last season. So
Here you go.
But to put it in context, you have to watch a lot of Premier League footballers when you're like, Kane's out or Haaland's out. Who can I put in to fit in that's an affordable price? And he was one of the players that was a little bit more affordable. And I'm not a statistician where I need to see the player in person before I make that decision. I'm quite competitive. I want the points on the board. So that's the reason why I looked at Dom before, obviously, last season where he blew up. And then obviously everyone's like, one season hit wonder. That's the narrative that's going around. And that's the reason why we pulled the trigger. So I look at it a little bit different. My eyes are a little bit different when I'm looking at Dom Solanke. Is it the striker I thought we were going to go for? 100% no. No. It completely threw me off, especially for that. The reason why I dismissed it, because I just said, that price is too high, like 65 million. That's crazy for Dom. We're not going to do that. But then now...
Do you still feel that about the price now, Ash?
Yeah.
Do you still think it's a lot?
I do. I think obviously, I think he's not worth that money, but the market is the market. That's what it is. And you have to pay the going rate. They don't want to let go of their number 9. I think he's their highest ever goal scorer in terms of like in that Premier League season. I don't think anyone scored as many goals as him in that Premier League season. In Premier League,
no one really springs to mind throughout the years for Bournemouth for banging in 19.
They're a small club. Like I've got concerns with Dom, if I can, if I'm allowed to say.
Go for it, man.
The concerns for me that it's the step up. It reminds me of a Richarlison. Richarlison, obviously, when he was at Everton, he didn't get great numbers, but again, he was their main man, the leading man, and he looked like an energetic and explosive forward. And we thought, okay, if we put that into our side, then he may like in an attacking side, because obviously Everton were a low block side. And we thought, if we put him in an attacking side, then maybe he will get better metrics. However, at the time, we weren't really an attacking side, to be honest, weren't we? So,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? The hope was that he would kick on,
Yeah,
and then
sure.
he didn't kick on. And it was like Maddison was at Leicester. He was pulling up trees, scoring like 14, 15 goals. So then we thought, okay, we've lost Kane, but maybe we get goals from other areas like Son and Maddison coming in. Maybe they contribute 15 goals each. That makes up for the 30 goals we might have lost from Kane.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Maddison doesn't score as many, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, mate, absolutely.
Whether Solanke can make the step up. And then I looked and I researched, because I do remember the Man United game. I watched both Man United games live. So I was interested to see whether he had scored against the top teams. When I say the top teams, I mean the top 4 teams, possibly, maybe if I include us in it, maybe the top 5, top 6 teams, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I looked at the Manchester United game again. I was like, wait a minute, who was the actual lineup? Because I saw him play, and I did notice him. I was like, raw, like he's the guy that was kind of not necessarily being the danger man in terms of like being a goal threat, but in the link play, through balls, key passes, holding up play, that type of stuff. That's what I look at for a number 9 or a footballer in general. Did he have those components? He did. But then I looked at who he was bullying, and unfortunately, it was an 18-year-old centre-back from the academy, and they had many injuries in that game. But yeah, apart from that Man United game, I was like, who else did he trouble? And I was like, ooh, no one else. Aston Villa, obviously he scored against. I don't know if you can count that. Possibly, because they're in and around our competition, and Newcastle. So that's when I kind of had that feeling: is this going to be like another Richarlison or Brennan Johnson, kind of like 50 million, 55 million? The pressure, can he make the step up? Can he hit the ground running? I don't know if Spurs fans are going to give him enough patience if he starts a bit slow, if that makes sense. And then pylon will start, and then does he have the mentality to kind of kick on through that first season? Also, and I'm sure we're going to get onto it, what does this mean for Richie? Because Richie's saying, I'm happy. I've got main striker vibes because I want to play for Brazil. It's not all about money. Caveat that, I could say, will he get the best out of Richie, and will Richie get the best out of him, because they know they're fighting for that shirt? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as well. So there's that side of things as well. But sorry, I've been talking for a
No, mate. It's good. It's good insight. It's good insight. Look, my viewers know how I feel. Look, I agree with you. Look, the more I think about the Solanke deal, I'll put it in the way I can. Ash, you know me well enough by now. I don't get overly excited unless I really think a player is top draw. Yeah, you go out there and tell me Spurs have signed Eze, I go, yeah, I want to get down there. I want to watch the boy play. I look at Solanke and I go, okay, he's a good striker. He's a good striker, right? Notice the tone in my voice when I say good. I'm not going, oh my God, this is a good strike. For me, this is a kind of, like you said, is this another Richarlison? Is this another one of those players where we go, well, they've had one good season elsewhere. They've played for a smaller club. Now stick them into a better club and it automatically works. And I don't think that's quite how it works. The noises I'm hearing now actually are very similar to Richarlison. If you remember at the time, it was, I think everyone was going, is it Richarlison? Is it Gabriel Jesus? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
And all of the debate was, well, Richie starts for Brazil, so Jesus can't be that good, and we got the right man. Yeah. And we were told, look what he does in a poor Everton team. Now chuck him in at Spurs. And it didn't quite work. But he's got the pressing, but he's got the work rate. I'm hearing those things now, and I'm not disagreeing with that. Solanke's got that in abundance, but transferring that from a team like Bournemouth that nobody's going to stick 10 men behind the ball against Bournemouth, Ash. If we're going to look at this tactically, and this is why I hate, sorry if I'm waffling, this is why I hate when people say things like, well, he got 19 for Bournemouth, he'll get 25, 30 for us. The difference for us is lots of the teams we play against now will stick 10 men behind the ball and try and counter us. They know that's how to play against Tottenham. teams against Bournemouth weren't sticking 10 men behind the ball, so it would have had more space. Now, I'm not saying that automatically means he can't score goals. If you had to ask me now, I'm putting him in between 16 to 18 league goals. If he does better than that, I hold my hands up and say, fair play to him. My question to you, Ash, is this. Do you understand the concern? I know you said it wasn't so much for you, this, but do you understand the concern that some of the people have when we talk about one good season? Because this isn't a 21-year-old that's had one good year and you go, oh, he's growing. This guy's 27 in September.
That's right.
One good year. Do you see the concern? Why is that not so much of a concern for you?
It is a concern, but then it's like you have to take risks, and you look at the market and what's available, and you have to be realistic for what is available at the moment. Does he tick the box? The one season he had, you could argue, because a lot of people wanted a player like Dovbik. I can't say his name. Dovbik. I watched him in the Euros to see like what the hype was all about. I like to see, like, you know, if I can't watch the Liga, I watch the international football. But then again, it's different players around him, so it's hard to judge. But I looked further back, because I always look further back. What have they done before? And before the Liga, when he had that one season wonder, like we could say for Solanke, he was in the Ukrainian league, which is equivalent to maybe a championship, some might say. And he got 24 goals. He got 24 goals there. So, and before that, he was in their championship. So he's in the lower division before that. And that's when his numbers look really low. Like he got 3 goals, 2 goals. And then I was like, if we're going to slap the same or give the same energy to Solanke, maybe we should give that same energy to Dovbik. Sorry.
But Ash, can I just interject? Don't you think that I agree with you, by the way. I think where I come from, because I am one of these people who says Dovbik was available. I think where I come from is the fact that Roma went and got Dovbik for £25 million.
And I agree.
And Dominic Solanke is double that and then some. What are we getting for the extra double that we wouldn't have for Dovbik? I suppose I'm just posing that as a question before. Right now, I can see people in the chat, Ash, going, Savva Dovbik. I'm just asking a question.
No. You're right. And it's a good question. And I would say to that, the typical thing, English quota, you know. Premier League tax. And then also the 20% add-on, because Bournemouth have to make money to replace him. And that's why the fees increase, because if Liverpool weren't involved, maybe the price would have dropped a bit more to maybe a 40 million, which I think he's worth. I don't think he's a 5 million player. So I think that's why at the start I had to say a caveat: the market is the market, and unfortunately, overpay for someone that's worth. He's not worth 65 million. Let's be real. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what it is. I was looking closely at his numbers, because I was wondering why there was a jump up from a Gary O'Neill, because Gary O'Neill, I rate. He's a good manager. He did well with Wolves, but he was at Bournemouth. And I remember the season before last, when Bournemouth came to us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I remember Stellini was in charge, or Mason was in charge. And Dominic Solanke turned up against us, and I was like, all right, cool. But why was his numbers so poor if he's like looking decent? And then obviously we've got a different centre back pairing this time, and he went a bit missing, because I was having an argument with someone in my group saying, no, Dominic Solanke is decent, man. Don't shit on him. He's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, watch this Tottenham game. And then he stunk it out against Romero and Van der Ven. I was like, this is typical. As soon as I said, look at him, he's dead. But but I looked at both seasons, and I looked at in the Gary O'Neill system, obviously they play more counter-attacking football. They kind of compared to what their new manager Areola does. He's a bit more front-footed, and he plays higher up the pitch. And so I read an interview where the manager said to him, I want you 10 yards higher up. And it reminded me of what Emre said to Ollie Watkins when he wasn't putting up numbers for Gerrard. And he's like, you're too much over here. I need watched that Sky Sports interview with Watkins, and he was saying that, and he was like, "Oh, the manager just told me to move here, and then my numbers just went up dramatically." But with Solanke, I noticed that. And the reason why I noticed Solanke before, and I said about the fantasy thing, and we laughed, ha ha ha, it's fantasy, don't do that. But the reason why I did notice Solanke and I watched him and I did put him in my team, the reason why is because of his ball carrying and his dribbling and his technique. So I was like, oh, actually, there's a player in here, and he had a good link play. I wouldn't even say hold up play; it was a good link play with Philip Billing, and those two. I thought, wow, okay, cool. There's something in this kid. Then I was like, wait a minute. All right, he didn't bang the numbers for whatever reason. Why has he exploded the next season? And it wasn't just because he'd moved 10 yards forward. It's because the amount of touches he took in the box was a lot more. And also, the manager was like, oh, you know what? You see that dribbling and carrying you do? I want less of that. And so the numbers that he dribbles and carries with was significantly less than the season before. And he was more of a number 9. So I was like, okay, it's starting to make a bit more sense on why, so he became more of a box striker.
Less touches, but more touches in dangerous areas.
Right then. So then I translated that to maybe the club looked at that and thought, all right, if we want a 9 that's going to be in between the sticks, and you know how we like to fire the ball across the box, that would make sense. I looked at a game as well. I don't want to look at just, like when you go on YouTube, it's just mad highlights.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. So I tried to find as many games, like extended highlights, of course. I'm not going to watch the whole game, but extended highlights where you could just see Solanke in isolation. I obviously had to watch the whole Bournemouth game, but I'm seeing him with Sinistera. I'm seeing him with Clivert. I'm seeing him with Christie. There's a few other players as well. They had, I forget, Taverna. Yeah. So basically, his movement would dictate where they would put the ball into the box. So sometimes they would do those diagonal balls, which I could see Porro doing. I remember there was a game I watched against, it was Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest, it was. And he scored a hat-trick. That was a game he scored a hat-trick in. And what I noticed about him was his movement off the ball. And what he does is that typical number 9 where he looks to get on the blind side of a centre-back. And then he moves into the space. And then he gets the leap on a player. And that's why his head and metrics look so good compared to that. Even Richarlison, because everyone's like, oh, Richarlison.
The proper centre forward play.
Yeah, proper centre forward. The caveat to that is we need wingers that can actually cross it in the air.
Well, this is where I was going to go, actually.
Porro can do it. Kulusevski had did it for Richarlison against Nottingham Forest when he did that diagonal ball when it was away and he scored that header. And we're like, see, we just need to put balls into the box for Richarlison and then he scored goals. But then obviously he got injured, then he came back and then he went on that run. But yeah, sorry, Karen.
No. Good. Look, listen, I love the analysis. Look, and again, I the way I feel about this deal is it's probably somewhere in the middle, as you said at the beginning of the show, in different words. I don't think this is, oh my God, what are we doing? I also don't think, oh my God, this is the only player in the world that can play handball, is the greatest striker. For me, we'll see what he does. And what I don't mean is, I don't mean that he starts against Leicester, grabs a brace, and we all go, this is Harry Kane Mark II. I mean, let's see him over a season. Let's see him in big games as well. Because one of the things I was going to ask, I won't now because you've already discussed it, was who are the goals against? And sometimes we have to look at that. So look, let's see. Spurs at the early season, we've got Man United, we've got Arsenal. I think we've got Newcastle early goals, Villa, right? So we've got all of these teams in the first 10 games.
Right.
If he turns around and you see Solanke goal, fans like me go, all right, I liked him, but now I really see it. So I don't dislike him. It doesn't excite me. I know people want to see me go, but you know me, Ash, I don't watch a game and lose my mind, fall off my chair and scream at a screen. Right. Now, I just wanted to look at a couple of other things. Before we look at the dynamic you mentioned there, which I think is really important. It's not just about him as a forward. It's about how do we get the best out of him with those players. Before we do that, I just want to look at a couple of stats and get your take on it. I don't want to go too deep in this, but
let's do it.
The first thing I looked at was the discipline. They were going negative first.
Yes.
If we look at the dispossessed stats, this is for 23-24. You can see that this is for forwards. Dominic Solanke is dispossessed more than any other player in the Premier League. And then you go to 22-23, and you can see he's in the top 4 again there. Now, the reason I show that stat, I'm not trying to belittle him. My concern, and we'll come on to this properly in 5 or 10 minutes, is as a team, we're not very good at retaining the football in midfield. We're not very good at retaining the ball up front, which is why we keep getting done on the transition, because we give the ball away.
Yeah.
Does it bode well for Spurs then that we've seen in the last 2 seasons, Dominic Solanke's finished 1st and 4th in terms of the number of times he's been dispossessed up front? Does that bode well for Spurs in terms of how teams turn us over, one quick ball over the top? I'm just trying to look at it from playing devil's advocate here. Is that a slight concern?
100%. Sometimes his touch has gone wandering. As I said, when I watched him in that Spurs game, and I was like, "Nah, he's got good ball control. Watch it." And my friend was like, "Nah, his touch is bad."
yeah.
Like, trust me, watch it. And then he let me down. I was like, "Oh." But to caveat that, I would say that when I have watched him in other games, actually, because context is key. You can look at the numbers and be like, "Oh my days, he's terrible. He can't hold the ball up." He's
of course.
You know what I mean? But
it's all subjective, right? It's all subjective, by the way. Listen, I don't want to live in a world of stats. I just thought it was interesting purely because
factual.
This isn't like if Erling Haaland loses the ball and you've got the rock solid Rodri and that back 4 behind him, and you go, "That's fine. He can lose it. They'll win it back."
Yeah.
This is Tottenham, where we get counter-attacked for fun. So that's the only reason I bring it up.
I noticed that about Richarlison. And the reason why my caveat is that he's got better numbers in terms of hold-up play than Richarlison. In terms of link play, he's got better numbers than Richarlison. So in those aspects, even dribbling and carrying the ball, he's got better numbers than Richarlison. And I thought Richarlison was more of a wide man that could take the ball off the pitch. But versus him and Son, again, he's better at holding the ball up than Son as well. He's got more physicality.
For sure.
Than a Son Heung-min. Back to goal as well. Like if you sting the ball into him, back to goal. He scored goals where he's had to get on a half turn in the box and then put it in the back of the net. So and that's like my concerns are like, there are going to be times when, we're up the pitch and he loses it, but I would prefer to lose it high up the pitch.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Than losing the ball. Like, for example, if Basuma loses the ball, then like in that area, 6 roll, it's curtains. Do you know what I mean?
And we're going to come on to that, Ash. We're going to come on to that because I'm just aware of time. So look, what I will say is, by the way, that wasn't me knocking him. It was just a talking point. Look, this is Dominic Solanke's goal scoring for the last 2 years, and I guess the question is, which one are we getting? Not that. The question is, are we getting Dominic Solanke that finished 45th in the goal scoring charts with 6 goals, or are we getting Dominic Solanke that finished joint 4th with Phil Foden and Ollie Watkins on 19 goals? So that wasn't a question, by the way. It was more of a, he's here now. Whether we want him or not, he's going to be here. I will get behind him. But as always, Ash, the manager will live and die by this signing. There can be, if this doesn't work, if he doesn't bang in the goals, if the hold-up play doesn't work, the pressing doesn't work, there can be no, Ange wasn't backed, because a lot of the fans are now saying, this is the perfect Ange signing. This is the guy that presses. This is the Ange ball system guy. So I will keep the same energy. I think it's a good signing. I would have liked to have seen someone better with Solanke as my number 2, but we'll see. As always, it will probably be in the middle. Ash, I want to move on to this. We talk about, and just for the last 5 minutes, just so that we don't run over half an hour. Look, we needed a striker. I don't think there's a Spurs fan alive, right, that would have said, don't need a striker. We knew that. We're in a WhatsApp group. You see me venting and talking and blah, 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 and you hear my voice notes and you watch me stream. I'm not saying you watch me religiously, but you know my thoughts.
Yeah, I do watch your streams, I do.
I'm a huge component of, fine, the forwards, get a forward in that gets 20, 25, 30. Sure, do that. Get the winger that beats a man, do that. My biggest concern, Ash, as you know, is I think the midfield is very laboured. I don't think it's a really good midfield that competes with the best clubs. We've got no holding midfielder that protects the back two. I'm saying two. And our fullbacks are so gung-ho. This is my concern. We've addressed that if you want. I don't think at the back, I can't see how we stop letting in goals, Ash. And that's why my bigger concern than the striker was this area. Do you see where I'm coming from with this? And what do you make about this whole back two being exposed, no number 6 to be the first man to engage in the tackle or the press? What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it is a concern. Let's be real, because the idea is that we press high up, and our first line of defense is the attack. So the introduction of a Dominic Solanke is that he wins the ball or he presses the keeper. The keeper is then either forced long or he's forced into the channel. And then when he's forced into the channel, that's when the second phase happens. And then one of our midfielders or one of the fullbacks that have inverted, they go and press. And then obviously we win the ball back. And then once we've turned that ball over, then we create a chance because we're closer to their goal. So that's basically
that's the theory.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yeah.
When teams can beat it and they figure it out, they think, okay, if we're patient and we do 2 or 3 passes and then we do the long ball into the channel, that's when we can hurt Spurs. And I think what Ange is simply saying is, yes, we're willing to concede those type of chances, but we're going to score more than you effectively. But
Aussie Ardiles, anyone?
So yeah, he's banking on the front 5 because it's a 2 at the back and it's a 3 in the middle, and then the 5 in front. They're the ones that got to be the ones that are more clinical with their chances when they are presented. Now I want to talk about the shape of the 2 at the back and the 3 in the front. Now, at times, it's not always the fullbacks invert into the 2 10 roles or like they play as attacking mids. Sometimes, from what I've seen, it is the 6, which is Basuma at the moment, or some people might say it's Archie Gray. But whoever's playing that 6, the 2 fullbacks sometimes they play alongside them. So they invert in the midfield role. So essentially, that's another layer of defense. So you've got the 3 and then the 2 as 2 defensive lines. And then behind that is meant to be the goalkeeper in Vicario, and he's meant to be a sweeper keeper. And he comes out at times and he cleans up when we can't get back. So in theory, when we do have our strongest back 4, which is not necessarily true. You know, people are always saying, oh, when we get our back 4 together, we concede less. Newcastle said different. You know what I mean?
Mate, the stats for the last sort of 15, 14 games of the season, everyone keeps saying that, but the stats towards the end of the season didn't support the theory. We were actually conceding as many goals with them. So, yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, but the only thing I would say is Doggy was out for Liverpool, he was out for Arsenal, and he was out for Chelsea, and that's when we were exposed. When we had
your whole defensive structure can't be based on a left back being missing.
Exactly.
Right? It just can't.
It just cannot. It's insane. That's why I think that should be a priority as well. Left back.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, the idea is when you've got the 2 and then the 3 are meant to, especially the 2 inverted midfielders, we're basically saying you can't come through here. You have to go down the sides. But the inverted left back has to run wide and help in that channel. He has to pull off and he has to clean up. Similar with the right hand side. So if it's Doggy or Porro, they need to clean up. I would prefer if it was a 3-2, because that's what I see Liverpool do. And certain times I see Man City do when Kyle Walker pushes up. They have 3 centre backs essentially.
Ake or Vardy will tuck in and make it a 3.
Ake and Gardval, they're by trade, they're not fullbacks. They're actually centre backs.
Agreed.
Do you know what I mean? Ake for Bournemouth was a centre back. I remember, and I wanted him. And I saw him when I went to Netherlands. I saw him. I was like, "Please come to Spurs."
Good.
I'm saying, I was like, what's going
Can I
on?
just say,
Yeah.
Ake is a quality defender that is so underrated. This guy hardly ever puts a foot wrong and constantly doesn't get any recognition. He's a top defender for me.
But the point I'm making is, you see how pragmatic your City and your Liverpool and then even Arsenal.
Yeah.
They've got obviously we won't talk about Zinchenko, but they've just obviously got Calafiori. He's another centre back. So then you're seeing more security in a back three system with two in front of them, if that makes sense. Ben White really was the third centre back because he's playing fullback, but you've got Ben White, you've got Saliba, and then you've got Gabriel. So that's your three centre backs, and then Zinchenko or whoever's left back would tuck in and protect with Rice and help with progression to play those balls out. With Spurs, we play the 2-3. So we're more vulnerable. We've got less protection, and I think we're a team that we need more. We need more protection, even than those guys. Do you know what I mean?
But Ash, can I ask? Listen, I completely agree with you, but the concerning thing for me is I know people keep saying, "Well, Ange has done all this his whole career," and with all the greatest respect, that's fine. He's not done this his whole career against Pep Guardiola, against what was Klopp but now Slot, Arteta and Arsenal and Villa and Newcastle. I get it, right? I get that we're trying to play this type of football that no one else in the world plays, right? The two inverted fullbacks.
Yeah.
That's great. But the problem with this is you're either so crazy that you turn into a genius and everyone goes, oh my God, what's he done here? Or you're so crazy that you end up getting yourself the sack because there's only so many games Daniel Levy will sit and watch as we concede 3, concede 4, concede 3, concede 2, concede 3. And my worry is, Ash, if the biggest clubs, if the 3 biggest clubs in the country, Liverpool, in terms of league position, Liverpool, Arsenal and City, are all doing what you said. They're all tucking in for a free and one of the fullbacks goes. Plus they've all got a number 6.
Yes.
Right? If they're all doing that and we're doing the complete opposite with no number 6 to protect, and I'm not going to count Gray or Basuma, I'm not, because Gray's a kid and Basuma isn't a 6. If we're going to continue to do that, mate, I can't see how we ever get better because we will concede goals, Ash. Teams now are, it's not just that they've worked it out. The number of attacks, I saw a stat the other day, the number of attacks that go down our channels every game is higher than any other team in Europe. Let that sink in. The highest conceding team of chances from out wide. You're going to get punished, Ash, right? And I'm not trying to belittle Ange. I just don't get the tactics. I don't think it's the crazy genius. I think this is the crazy you're going to get yourself sacked type of football.
So this is where I take a pill of hopium.
Right. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. And I hope, my hope is, this is Spurs fan of me. I hope that he does adapt. And I felt like last season, he did make a few tactical tweaks at times. And what I have seen as well, because he doesn't really, in my opinion, he doesn't really play with a 6. He plays like a positional kind of, everyone takes responsibility at different times. Like against Bayern Munich, I did see at times Spence drop in to pick the ball off the centre back or off Vicario. When Vicario was playing the ball through the middle and we conceded that goal, it's because Spence dropped into the middle and then the ball was hospital. We gave him a hospital ball and then obviously he got punished for it. But the point I'm making is sometimes it's Gray. Sometimes you see Porro drops into that. And even like, if we go into the actual season, sometimes you saw Papa Sarr kind of protect the ball. You know what I mean? So it's like the players are meant to interchange, but then it's down to the quality and it's down to also the game state. Because sometimes, like, bro, don't play it down the middle, play it down the channel. And if we lose it up near the channel, it's okay. Or if you play a little bit more direct and play it into the front line, but obviously we had Son, you couldn't really play it into Son, but now we got Solanke. Hope is that maybe he can hold it up, but those stats we're not sure, innit? But do you know what I mean? If we can mix up the tactics, then teams won't press us, and then if they're not pressing us as much because we've gone direct and they kind of stand off us, then we can play out the back. We've got a bit more freedom and think, and then it mixes up. And that's the thing for me. I want us to mix it up a little bit more, and that's where my hope is. I'm thinking, times can we mix it up and keep teams guessing? Can we go back to the time when we, in those first 10 games, is my last point, what we did so well, I felt, and I saw this against Bournemouth, I saw this against Palace, the lower block teams. What we do is we bait the press.
Yeah.
And when you bait the press, and I said it in my earlier streams, I was like, oh, this is impressive. What we're doing is we're allowing them to come onto us, and then that creates space in behind, and that's how we start to beat the low block.
Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping we go back to some of that style of football, because we stopped doing that in the second half of the season. I thought we went a little bit direct and a bit more fast, a little bit more manic. And I agree with you. We sometimes needed a player to get a foot on the ball, to control the game, to slow it down, not the pitch, and we could find that pass. And my hoping again, and it's really bad. He's an 18-year-old, and I don't know. He's going to take time. But
of course,
in pre-season, for what I saw, Bergvall is that player for me. I'm not going to lie. He's the only person I saw get his foot on the ball, and then he popped up on the left, he popped up on the right. Sometimes he'll play it short and simple. Sometimes he would drive with it, and sometimes he would pick a pass. And I don't want to put all my hopes in the 18-year-old, but at least there is a player that has those abilities.
Yeah, do you know what? Listen, I don't disagree with you. Bergvall, when I look at Bergvall and Gray play, I completely understand the signing of Bergvall. I do. I think you can see that Bergvall's a footballer. And by footballer, I mean, when he gets the ball, that natural movement on the ball, the passing, the first touch, where am I going to go?
Physicality as well. I was surprised.
But he's 18, right? And again, 18-year-olds often more often than not will give the ball away. And the problem is, if you are the deepest lying player in the Spurs midfield, we saw this how many times against the K-League 11, how many times against Bayern Munich, right? The problem is where we give the ball, Ash, where we give the ball away is always right in front of the back two, because Porro and a Doggy or whoever have gone, and teams are through on goal. I truly believe, though, that I don't think there's enough quality from any one of our centre midfielders to be that guy. I think there's some good players in there, but I don't know if there's anyone where you go, he's that guy. Declan Rice, Rodri, these are Michael Carrick. Is there anyone that you go, Kante, I'm that guy? Don't worry, you guys go, I've got this. But look, Ash, I don't want to go on for just 2 minutes less. We'll leave it there for that. Just quickly, praise the football lords and gods or whoever you believe in. Emerson Royal, this deal has been, I saw earlier that Spurs were first in contact with, Milan were first in contact with Spurs in May. It's June, July, August. Emerson Royal's gone. In just a couple of sentences, what do you think? And are we going to replace him, or are we literally just going to shoehorn Jed Spence into his gap?
It's interesting. First of all, I wanted to have a second for Barry, aka Nick. Just want to give a little prayer for him, because I know he's lost the real one for him. However, yes, I'm here to be happy. I don't think on the ball, he was the answer. So right back cover now, Jed Spence is trying to make a case for him, and the club seems that they're happy. However, there has been links to other right backs at the moment. So I've got my question marks now. I'm like, is Spence going to be that guy? Are they going to try and shoehorn him into a left back now? Because I saw him play as a left back for against Bayern Munich.
Lots of shoehorning, man. Isn't
there? Lots, but also I saw the links of Skip going away, and I know we have that kind of club trained problem. Yeah. And so if Skip goes out the door, then I'm like, Carl Walker-Peters.
Yeah. He can play right. He can play left. Yeah.
My brother, no, we're going backwards. And I know Ange doesn't like to go back to X's, but Tottenham come like we do.
Oh, we love it.
We love it. We've had it with the Sheringham. Klinsmann come back. We've had Kane will probably come back. Kane will come back at the age of 40 and we'll go. He's one of our own. Ash, look, listen, thanks so much for joining me. Everybody, you know where to find Ash. I'll put it in the link. Spurs Kings TV. What I love, I'll blow some smoke up your ass. What I love is when you have a conversation with Ash, he comes with details. He's watched the players. He's
He's giving some real insight, and watch his videos. They're all really good. Look, Ash, thanks so much for coming on. Please go and follow Ash. Smash the like. As always, if you're going to put comments in the chat, please keep it football. Yeah, not everything needs to be a dig at me or my guest or what. Keep it football. Join me live tonight at 9 p.m. with a selection of Spurs YouTubers and guests as we talk all things Spurs. We'll talk Solanke some more. We'll talk Emerson Royale. We look forward to Bayern Munich tomorrow and, more importantly, Leicester next weekend. Take care, everyone. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.